Welcome to Unity. Our reading this morning is actually an excerpt from a sermon that was given by a teacher named Ernest Holmes. It was given in the 1950s at a place called Asilomar. And this is an excerpt. I'm not going to read the whole sermon. This is an excerpt from that message, and it begins like this. He said, "It would be wonderful indeed if a group of persons should arrive on earth who were for something and against nothing. This would be the summum bonum of human organization, wouldn't it?" And just a little note. Who knows what summum bonum is? Shortly speaking, highest good. This would be the highest good of human organization, wouldn't it? For us to be for something and against nothing. Find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough not to condemn others out of the burden of his soul, and I will find another Savior, another Jesus, another exalted human being. Find me one person who no longer has any fear of the universe, of God, or of man, or of anything else, and you will have brought to me someone in whose presence we may sit, and fear shall vanish as clouds before the sunlight. Find me someone who has given all they have to love, and I will have found the lover of my soul. Why? Because they will have revealed to me the nature of God and proved to me the possibility of all human souls. Find me one person who can get their own littleness out of the way, and they shall reveal to me the immeasurable magnitude of the universe in which I live. Find me one person who knows how to talk to God, really, and I shall walk with them through the woods, and everything that seems inanimate will respond. The leaves of the trees will clap their hands. The grass will grow soft under us. Find me one person who has so completely divorced themselves from all arrogance, and you will have discovered for me an open pathway to the kingdom of God here and now. Find me someone who has detached their emotional and psychological ego from the real self, without having to deny the place it plays in the scheme of things, and without slaying any part of themselves, because the transcendence is there also. And I will have discovered the ineffable in this individual, and a direct pathway for the communion of my own soul. I am talking about you and myself. When I say find a person, I don't mean go over to Rome or London or back to your own church. The search is not external. These people exist in all of us. They are qualities of our own soul. They are visions, not that we have multiple or dual personalities, but that every one of us on that inner side of life is, has been, and shall remain in eternal communion with the ineffable, where we may know that we are no longer with God, but one of God. I know. If I could have preached like him, I'm just saying. I'm going to read through our affirmation once, and then I'll invite you to join me. I walk in the easy awareness of my inner being, infinite source. I practice the awareness of this presence and am guided by its wisdom and nourished by its love. My spiritual practice is effortless and fulfilling and maintains and sustains me with every breath, and so it is. Please stand, join me with conviction. Take a stand for your good here. I walk in the easy awareness of my inner being, infinite source. I practice the awareness of this presence and am guided by its wisdom and nourished by its love. My spiritual practice is effortless and fulfilling and maintains and sustains me with every breath. And so it is. Silly little message today. I guess not. Do something. Do something. Do something. Do something, you guys, all of us. I mean, I know I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying it to me too. Find me one person who is for something and against nothing. Let us be for something greater than we are. Let us be for the idea of peace and love and generativity and enough for everyone. Let's be for all of that and then get out in the world and do something about it. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, peace. Yeah, I'm all for peace. Peace is a good thing. Are you peaceful? I'm all for love. Yeah, love, that's a real good thing. Are you loving? I'm all for a transformed world. Are you doing something to transform the world? Or are you... Which is not bad. Let me just be clear about that. This isn't bad. But when we let it distract us from the work of creating a world that is nourishing for everyone, that is generative, that is love-based, when we allow all the little stuff to distract us, and then we say, oh, I didn't have time, or I don't have time, or I just don't have the energy for that. Well, you know what? You do. And so do I. Where do you choose to put your energy? It's so funny how, we have all kind of time to do all the things we want to do, don't we? We can make all kind of time to do stuff. Are we willing to create time to make the world a better place? Are we willing to create that better world in consciousness? Because what do we know? We know that consciousness is cause, and we must create it up here first in order to manifest it in the world. And how many of us sit around talking about how bad things are? What we're creating in consciousness is a mental equivalent of more bad. Stop it. Do something. Do something different. Stop being mad at people. Stop arguing. Be for something and against nothing. Be something greater than you are. How many of you have heroes? I have some heroes. One of my heroes is my mom. My mom is a terrific human being, and certainly, we've had moments in our relationship in which I would have sworn to you she was not my hero. But the fact is, when I really, when I look at her life, and with such courage and tenacity, she has raised a family, she has created a life that is beautiful for herself and for us in so many ways. She is one of my heroes. Do you have a hero like that? Martin Luther King is one of my other heroes. I like him a lot because he was so imperfect and yet so exalted, both at the same time, right? I mean, he had a lot of stuff, you guys. And yet he had moments where he could pierce through to the truth and give sermons like I Have Seen the Mountaintop that changed the world. He did something. And one of the things I really like about him is he did something in spite of all of his stuff. Did you hear that? He did something in spite of all of his stuff. In the last couple years, I have kind of a new hero. How many of you know who Malala is? So Malala was shot in the head by the Taliban because she had the audacity to want to go to school. And I was really touched by her story, but she became my hero when I read this thing. And this is I'm all about speeches other people gave today, I guess. She said this: when she was speaking to a group of people about what happened to her. How old is she, you guys? 13? Like, she's a young girl. Dear sisters and brothers, I am not against anyone. Neither am I here to speak in terms of personal revenge against the Taliban or any other terrorist group. I'm here to speak up for the right of education of every child. I want education for the sons and daughters of all the extremists, including the Taliban. They shot her in the head because she wanted to go to school. And she's advocating for their rights and for the rights of their children. She went on, I do not even hate the Talib who shot me. Even if there is a gun in my hand and he stands in front of me, I would not shoot him. There is the compassion that I have learned from Muhammad, the prophet of mercy, Jesus Christ, and Lord Buddha. This is the legacy of change that I have inherited from Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. This is the philosophy of nonviolence that I have learned from Gandhiji, Baka Khan, and Mother Teresa. And this is the forgiveness that I have learnt from my mother and father. This is what my soul is telling me. Be peaceful and love everyone. She became my hero when I read that. Maybe she might be a bit of a hero for you right now. What did she do? Who is she being? She is being someone who understands the innate unity of all of us. She is being someone who is willing to take a stand and do something, make a difference, but make a difference from love, not from revenge and making people wrong, but to stand as a beacon of truth and love. She's a teenager. If she can do it, surely we can. She understands who she is, and she is serving from the very heart of who she is. And her intention is to make the world a better place for everyone. Now that's a hero. And so as we think about this opportunity to serve from the very heart of God, as we think about the opportunity to make a difference in the world, let's look to our heroes. What kind of an example can they set for us? How can we be more like them? And let's look to the divine itself. Because what does God do? When I talk about serving from the heart of God, what is the heart of God? And you know, when you think about it, what does God do? And if you look at it at kind of a surface level, well, God creates people and planets, and God does this and circulates the stars and blah, 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 blah. That's not it. At a very surface level, that might look like it's it, but really what God does is express. At the core level, what God does is express in myriad forms. That is all it does. And in its expression, it is eternally giving. It is eternally giving. It is eternally evolving. It is eternally creating. The universe is expanding. That's what God does. It expresses, it gives, it generates. Can we be like God? Can we express? Can we give? Can we generate? With an intention of making the world a better place, with the intention of being of service to others, with the intention of doing something about all the things that we've grown so accustomed to complaining about. Let us be more God-like. Let us duplicate the nature of God here on planet Earth. Let us circulate the experience that God of life. You know, there's a spiritual law we talk about sometimes, and it's the law of circulation. And we often talk about it in the context of money, don't we? But that's kind of a cheapening of the law of circulation. Because yes, you can make it about money, but the fact is, the law of circulation is what goes out comes back. What goes out comes back. What goes out comes back. What we give, we receive. What we're willing to receive, we're allowing someone else to give. Did you hear that? Those of you who are like this about receiving. Just saying. So the law of circulation activates that as we give, as we duplicate the giving and expressing nature of spirit, we become for something and against nothing. We give of ourselves in love and service to others in a spirit of generosity and good fellowship. To refuse to give is to refuse to receive, for everything moves in circles. Real giving is the givingness to the self, a kind word. Real giving is the givingness to the self, recognizing our oneness and unity. We are giving to the infinite self. A kind word, a thoughtful act, perhaps just a smile, can help lighten the burden of others. You know, I was in the grocery store the other day, and mom is there, and baby's in the little thing, right? And mom's doing something, she's looking at something, or I forget. And baby's looking around, taking in the world. And have you ever done this? I'm like, and little baby's like looking at me, like, is she safe? Is it okay? What's she doing? And pretty soon baby's kind of smiling a little bit, yeah? And pretty soon baby's doing like this. And I'm going, peekaboo. And baby's going like this. How hard was that? That was not hard. And I had this thought, like here I am waving and smiling and playing peekaboo with this baby. And I don't know, my heart is softened and lifted. And I just feel so much happier all of a sudden. And I know that baby is having some experience of me that is generative and loving and giving. And I thought, what if I just waved and smiled at everybody I see? What if I just went, peekaboo? Ah! What if I went, just kind of, indiscriminately in the grocery store with people? Why do I reserve that? Why does the baby feel safe to me? The baby, I'll tell you why the baby feels safe to me. The baby feels safe to me because it's actually two things, I think. This is my personal theory. The baby feels safe to me because the baby is innocent, right? And just, exploring and love. But the baby is also safe to me because the baby is vulnerable. The baby can not respond or respond, but I don't take it personally. I don't get hurt. If I go up to you and I'm in the grocery store and I go, hi, and you don't respond, oh, well, she's not very nice, is she? Do you see? I make up a story about it, right? But what if we were just generative and giving? What if we just allowed ourselves to open our hearts to everyone? And I'm not recommending you go to the QFC and start waving and smiling like this at grown-ups, okay? What I'm saying is embody that way of being with everyone. Know that everyone is safe because everyone is at one with the one. And if they choose to push back in a way that might seem hurtful, that's just their human self. That's not the God self. Serve them. Be for them. Don't judge them. Do you think that God, this generative giving spirit, when I'm mad at God, which sometimes I do this, you guys, just so you know, do you think God takes it personally? No. The universal presence is a principle that is eternally expressing, eternally giving, eternally creating. And it doesn't care whether I partake of its good or not. It's impersonal. Of course, it's deeply personal because it's every cell in my body. It's all that I am. It's my mind. It's my heart. It's my beingness. It's closer than my neck vein, nearer than my hands and feet. And it also doesn't care if I partake in its good. I get to choose. I get to choose. Am I willing to choose to be the presence of love, of peace, of joy, to be generative, to be present, to duplicate the nature of God. So why would we want to do this? Like, really? Ooh, that sounds awfully vulnerable. Yeah? Well, why else are we here, do you think? Why are we on planet Earth? We're here. We are created in the image and likeness of this infinite creative source. What does it do? It creates and it generates and it gives. If we're in its image and likeness, for us to truly live a satisfied and fulfilling life, we must be creative and expressive and give. Generative. That is all that God would have us be. And that in itself is a good enough reason to duplicate its nature, but let's work a little bit deeper on that idea. Here's one thing for you to think about. Being willing to be in the presence of something greater than we are, it kind of works our stuff. You know what I mean? It kind of calls us to a higher standard. I'm remembering, and this was, a long time ago, 25 years ago maybe, I decided I wanted to be generative. There was something in me that was calling me forth to be generative, and I went back to school and I began to study social work, and I got a job working in a domestic violence shelter. And it was an interesting experience because I was sure that I was there to heal all those women who were coming there. I was sure that I knew something that they did not. I was sure that I could take them to some new kind of experience of life. And it didn't take me very long to figure out I was there for me. I was there to learn more deeply who I was, to learn how to be that present, generative spirit, to recognize and understand that I don't have all the answers, to recognize and understand that I don't know what's right for you. I do know that for me to be present, for me to duplicate the nature of God, for me to be a generative, loving spirit, I just have to show up and be that. And there may or may not be a healing for you in that. And that's okay. But you have that experience. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who was just there for you? And it just stuck with you over time, and maybe even in that moment you didn't realize the difference it was making in your life, but it did make a difference. Do you see? And what happened for me in that job was I actually had to face my own barriers. I actually had to face my own false beliefs. I actually had to face the idea of violence that I had experienced in my life, and what was that about? I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive some other people. And I did all that work in that volunteer job. All the while being a supportive person for all of the women that we served. And it was such a beautiful experience and such a big payoff. So I choose to duplicate the nature of spirit, be generative and giving, because it works my stuff. When I get out in the community and I say, yes, I'm going to give my time. I am going to be of service, and I'm going to have a healing. And I just got to put this in here. You want to have a healing? You want to be of service and have a healing? Start volunteering at your church. Next thing you know, you're in ministerial school. It's awesome. You'll be really glad you did that. I highly recommend it, because then your job becomes working your stuff. Your job becomes healing. And it's the most amazing job in the world. I have to tell you guys, I don't always love it, but it is the most amazing job in the world, and I am so grateful for it. So being of service in the world gives us an opportunity to heal the things that are getting in the way of our being fully generative, fully expressive, fully loving for something and against nothing. It also connects us to others in a new way, yes? Friends, contacts, connections, increased social skills. You know, I was thinking last night, we had our board, the Breaking Bread with the Board dinner was last night. It was awesome. It was awesome. We had so much fun, and afterwards, the board and the people who helped us in the kitchen, we had our dinner cold, but it was awesome. You guys who got it warm, you must have had quite a treat. But, we were sitting around talking, and it came up in our conversation, just chit-chatting and debriefing the evening. Dorothy, who's our board treasurer, and she doesn't know I'm going to say this, so I know you'll forgive me later. It came up that she and I met 23 years ago. I was working, actually, in a domestic violence program, and Dorothy was on the board of trustees. She was volunteering. She was giving her time. I met her, and we kind of pretty instantly hit it off. And of course, we're working together a lot on programs because I was the community programs director. And we just really, and now 23 years later, here she is. I took her to church at CSL for the first time. And 23 years later, here she is. She stayed part of my life. And you know what? If she had not said yes to that volunteer opportunity, if she had not said yes to that opportunity to be generative and loving and present to something greater than she is, she wouldn't know me. And what a bummer would that be? And we wouldn't have an amazing board treasurer. Okay, we might have some other amazing board treasurer, but we wouldn't have her as our board treasurer. And so being willing to be of service in the world, to be generative and expressive, connects us with other people. It develops our social skills. It gives us networks. Just say yes. It's good for us. Did you know that? It's physically good for you to serve in the community. There's lots of data to support this. Increased confidence, less depression, greater physical health, lower mortality rate, lower blood pressure, greater thinking skills. People who serve and are generative experience all of those benefits. And not only that, it can be really fun if we are willing to have fun. Do you know what I'm saying? Are we willing to have fun? Are we willing to be nurtured and grown? Are we willing, even when we're working our stuff, are we willing to have it be a positive experience? Are we willing to be connected and supported by our community as we are working our stuff? Are we willing to have the process be fun? There's something in the research called the happiness effect, and it goes like this. Helping others kindles happiness, the study demonstrated. When researchers examined the relationship between volunteering and measures of happiness in a large group of American adults, they found the more people volunteered, the happier they were. Compared with people who never volunteered, the odds of being very happy were 7% more among those who volunteer monthly, 12% for people who volunteer every 2 to 4 weeks. Among weekly volunteers, 16% felt very happy, a hike in happiness comparable to having an income of $75,000 to $100,000 a year. Are you ready for this? Giving time to religious organizations had the greatest impact. Do something. Make a difference. Do something. And do something in spite of your fears. I don't know about you. Sometimes I let my fears tell me what. Sometimes I think, am I serving from the Spirit of God, or am I serving from a sense of obligation? Am I serving really to make a difference in the world, or am I serving because I think I have to? And I heard somebody once, and I wish I remember who this was, say something that I thought was really wise. They said, never move faster than the speed of love. Never move faster than the speed of love. If it can't be done lovingly, you need to make more time for it so that it can be done lovingly. And so if it can't be done at the speed of love, downsize it a little bit so that it can. Make sense? If you're feeling like perhaps I'm giving out of a sense of obligation, look at that. Maybe you got some stuff to work about that. Maybe, you're making up a story about how hard it is. Or maybe it's not the right thing for you to do. But never move faster than the speed of love for yourself or for others. So be clear about where you are giving from. And the other thing I think of sometimes is, sometimes I get afraid of the discomfort of giving. I get afraid of the discomfort of doing something, of making a difference in the world. In 2013, I got to go on a service trip to Cambodia. And when that opportunity first came up, I was like, I'm not going there. Seriously, it's hot there. I think they have really big bugs there. I'm pretty sure that's not for me. Like, forget it. I'm not going to go there. Do you see, I was afraid of the discomfort. Like, do they have okay food there? What is that like there? It's a really long plane ride. That's uncomfortable. My back will, all of the, I had so much fear of the discomfort, I almost did not let myself have the opportunity. So as you think about making a difference in the world, about choosing a way to serve, about doing something that makes a difference, about being for something and against nothing, perhaps these little niggles of discomfort might come up. Don't allow yourself to miss out on the opportunity to be generative because of your petty little fears. Yes, I was too hot in Cambodia, and yes, I saw some really big bugs. And you know what? I'm okay. And I made a difference. And you know what? It's not the difference I made. It is the difference I made for the school that I worked in. But more than that, I made a difference in my own heart. I am more compassionate. I'm more loving. I'm more understanding. I duplicate more fully the nature of spirit. I allow God to flow more fully as me because I had that experience, because I did something in spite of my fears. Serving from the heart of God. Are you willing to do something? Yes. Let's turn within and seal this message. And I invite you to bring your attention to your breath, to breathe more deeply and more fully perhaps than you ever have before. To breathe into the awareness that you are at one with an infinite something that is generative, that is alive, that is energy, that is presence, that is omnipresence. It is breathing you. It is right where you are. You cannot be separate from it. For you are made of God's stuff. And as a wise teacher once said, we are at one with God. We don't know how much of God we are, but we are of its nature. And allow yourself to expand right now in your idea of how much of the divine you are. And allow that awareness to awaken in every cell in your body, to awaken in your mind, in your heart. Allow the awareness of truth to permeate every tendril of your mind, the very core of your being. And breathe deeply with me now. And allow yourself to see how you are making a difference in the world this week. Just bring to mind something, small or little, small or large. Bring to mind something that you can do that is life-giving, that is life-affirming, that is generative of the infinite good of God. Perhaps you're waving at a baby. Perhaps you are caring for an adult. Perhaps you are marching in the streets. Perhaps, whatever it is that you must do to embody the giving nature of the infinite spirit. To do something. And as you see yourself engaged in this action, this activity, this beingness, simply allow a mantle of loving peace to descend upon you as you know you are about God's work. Holy, sacred, divine, anchored here on planet Earth, making a difference in the infinite something, and making a difference for those you serve, making a difference in your own heart. And now I invite you to commit to take this step this week, to make a commitment in your own mind, in your own heart. Yes, I will do this thing, and I will do this thing by. And simply say yes. And give thanks for the transformation that is taking place in you right now. And give thanks for the transformation that is taking place in the world right now, because you are in it. Give thanks for all the good that is cascading and flowing and unfolding as all of us, as the universe, as all things. We do give thanks. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, simply allowing the Spirit of God to be the great impulsion in my life. And so it is. Amen.